I see your hand. I don't know why we have the assumption. And then things happen and it's shared and we're shocked, but I assure you there's somebody else or more than one person in this audience that could say, yeah, boy, I know what you're talking about. They may not have said it like you, but trust me, they are saying, somebody in church felt or experienced what I did, so I'm not alone. So I really thank you for that. A quick question before I move on. What did you think about the way your dad handled it? For you, did it meet your need? Yeah. Yeah. Because it could have escalated to us, right? Which is what happened with Amy. Go ahead. Right, right. So you became your own defender, right? And do we think, okay, so the parents, or even if you're not a parent, adult in a group, do you think that a child should become their own defender? Do you think that's right for a child to become their own defender? I see your hand, Auntie Naomi, yeah. Right. So in her case, they didn't believe her, and she took over, doing things on her own. Right. So thanks for sharing that too. I'll come back to tying some of the things that you all are saying. Right. So. Yes, as we noticed with Amy, we're looking at the way it was dealt with. A child is in trouble. They have had this experience, and just like you said, nobody prepares you for your family member to be unsafe. They will tell you, don't talk to strangers. Don't open the door to strangers. Come and tell mommy and daddy if you know somebody tries something in the playground or at school. But we don't have conversations about when the home environment becomes unsafe. And this is what happened to Amy. And she did what is natural. She did the right thing. She told her parents because at this stage she's trusting that, hey, I'm in trouble. You'll always say when we're in trouble, come to us. I did that. You semi did something. You spoke to him. Okay, maybe at that point in time that was what was needed. But then it happened a second time, and you revisited your first method. You spoke to him. Now, I didn't put it there, but in addition, police was involved in terms of police speaking to him, right? However, while that tactic scared him temporarily, it didn't stop him. So it happened again, right? And now look at the message that the child is believing, and something is along the line of what Renat would also. I would check with you, Renat, if you believed it too. Amy is now believing that telling mommy and daddy kind of helped, but it didn't meet my need for safety. So they met my need for listening. Maybe they listened to me, but they didn't keep me safe. They could not keep me safe. So I kept myself safe. And Amy's way of keeping herself safe was running away. Now, even though Amy ran away, Amy now has already gone through a childhood trauma, right? Um, of sexual abuse, right? Because it did end up to that full point. That was the last straw for her when it ended up to that full point. And now, because you are now an untreated 13-year-old girl walking around with this trauma within you, now you're doing what we'll call maladaptive ways of handling it. So now any Tom, Dick, or Harry in the adult version of a man comes your way, you're giving yourself to him sexually without blinking an eye because of how it started here, because of how things were handled here, because home was no longer safe. And Renette, in your case, you, Sammy, became your own savior too. Right. Right, right. And so that's the message that Amy went with. Now let's go with Sean's message. So, oh, sorry, I saw a hand. Mm-hmm. Part of what it is it's almost like let me see it without oversharing. It's almost like you, yeah, this is your way of taking control of a situation that was out of control. So you had an out of control situation, and now a lot of things I noticed with sexual abuse survivors is that they do what we call reenactments. So you always wonder sometimes why you have that sister or that neighbor who seem to be going from man to man to man, and you're wondering, where is a spirit on you? I mean, maybe there is, but I'm saying that in the carnal side of it, that a lot of abused victims, they reenact the whole play, because at the time when it happened, they were the helpless victim. They had to take what happened to them. But when you put yourself with a man or whoever, because these days it's not always a man, but whoever you put yourself with, it's your way of trying to get back control of what was taken from you. So, in other words, I'm doing this on my grounds. Now, is it the best and healthiest? Of course not. But you need to understand that this is how they know to survive. This is what they have learned, that I cannot depend on the adults around me or my sister or granny or whoever I grew up with. So I had to learn to depend on me. So yes, in some cases, it's about taking control. In other cases, trauma is a hell of a thing. There's so much research on trauma. We cannot do that today. But the thing with trauma is sometimes, because it interferes with your brain's way of looking at the world, also in your mind, and it's hard to say, this is actually safe. Going back to being re-traumatized is safe sometimes for some persons, because I don't know what unsafe looks like. So all I know, if I'm normalized to what unsafe looks like, but you're coming to tell me as a church person, Jesus doesn't want this for you. You know, he wants you to have a husband and settle down, and that husband could love you like Christ loved the church. In words and theory, that sounds okay. But if I've never really known what safety looked like for my whole life, you coming to tell me that as a church person, that scares me. I don't know what it's like to be with a man who's never hurt me, but you're telling me that this is what Christ expects of me. So when I don't do it your way, you may look at me as if I'm not trying hard enough, or I'm not Christian enough, or I don't believe in God enough. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing in churches, because sometimes we judge the person's actions without understanding the intention of their actions. Mhm. 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 Sometimes they are abused and sometimes they're not. Sometimes it's just losing the mom and no longer having, again, safety and foundation. You have to remember, kids, we have had years to, I can't even say perfect because we're not even perfect, but we have had years to at least get a semi balance of who we are today, our identity, our choices. Some of us decided not to get married for a reason, some of us decided to get married for a reason, but we have had years to know why we're making that decision, and hopefully by now we made the decision in the right thinking. A 13-year-old, a 10-year-old, a teenager, even somebody below the age of 25, one, they don't have that same brain capacity like we do right now at these 30 something, 40 something, 50 something ages, to really see that clearly. Their judgment is not like ours. So they make decisions based on where they are developmentally in their mental cognitive capacity. Is it always going to be bright? No. Did you always make bright choices? No. So again, we look at the action and we judge it like, you should have known better. Why don't you know better? But that's a lot you're asking for somebody who's lost their mom, could have possibly been abused, not by the mom or whoever was there, but people who tried to comfort her for losing her mom. And then being in a world where she don't have a support system. Because look at Sean. Sean technically lost his mom. She stayed in in her relationship, went by an uncle who he should have been grateful for, right? Any one of us might say, why are you giving Uncle hell? Uncle send him to school. Uncle buy all his school books, his school uniform. His mother didn't do squat for him, so why he getting on like that? But then look at the messages he's learning from Uncle. He's learning that, everything he should always feel grateful for. And he should always look at his mother as a pity party. And no matter what, he should obey the uncle regardless, because uncle knows best. So you have no say. Your mother is a villain. I mean, you know what that does to a child? Even a child that seems to have now new protection, new environment. And then we as an adult, and I could say I've been guilty of that too, we as adults, we talk about these kids with somebody else. And we think because we're doing the right thing of presenting ourselves as the savior, that the child shouldn't be bothered. But in the child's mind, it's like, if you can talk about my mother like that, what's the message you're giving to me is that you're not trustworthy. I don't trust you. Because every chance you get, when you see Sister John in church or when you see Sister James in church, you always sit down and tell a sad story. Why is my sad story have to be spreading in the church over and over? Like if I'm some poster box of an orphan. I'm not an orphan. My mom is there. She's not the greatest mom, but you don't have to keep saying it over and over. I get it. I've seen it. We forget kids are smart enough to see it. And then we keep reiterating to the child. And then we wonder why as soon as they turn 18, they hit the road, Jack. Right? So